You are listening to Life's a Vacay podcast, a weekly podcast series focusing on living a life without limitations. I'm your host, Cha Jones. Each week, I interview purposeful people about what they do and how they do it. Some have traditional professions, while others have designed unconventional careers. But what matters most is that they all are living a life where business and pleasure never separate. Each day is a vacay. So let's get started.
All right. So I'm going to say, hey, Santana, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. I'm excited to have this conversation because I don't often speak to coaches that aren't necessarily helping people live abroad. So it's great to be able to have a conversation with someone who has lived abroad, who has an interesting story, but also is really about helping people align their lives. And so I'm excited to talk to you because I know that you're going to give my audience all that they need. So thank you for joining.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to the chat.
So let's start talking about your life abroad. How did you originally live abroad?
Yeah, that's a great question. The first time I moved abroad, I came right after college, and it was because I met a guy who was from Europe. We fell in love, and I always tell the joke, I was imported.
I love
And I lived in Austria for a couple of years, and I lived in Germany for 1 year. And that's originally how I ended up, like not entirely on my terms. I was down for the exploration, down for the adventure, and, really moving in a direction of love versus moving in a direction of intentionality and moving abroad. This most recent move abroad, moved to Lisbon, Portugal about 3 years ago. And that was 100% on my terms, an intentional pursuit to build a life of balance and wellness.
So you're currently living in Lisbon now?
I am, yeah.
All right. So let's talk about this it's not that new, but the newest adventure abroad, which was on your terms, and it actually is aligned with what you do. So talk to us about how that has looked for you and how that enhanced the work that you're currently doing.
Yeah, 100%. I moved to Lisbon during the pandemic. It felt like I remembered living in Europe. I remembered that there was a place where I felt safe walking down the street, where rise and grind wasn't so much the culture, where there was much more of a healthy balance between how much we work and how much we play. And I needed that really desperately in my life. I was living in Washington, D.C., burnt out, climbing the ladder in the rat race. And something inside of me just said, like, girl, you need you need balance, you need more wellness. And so moving here absolutely allowed me so much more spaciousness to access that wellness because, I wasn't prepared for how much it was going to be different to walk down the street and not feel like, I might be attacked, or like to be in a crowd and not be worried about there being guns in the crowd, or, as a woman of color and Afro-Latina, like just not having the same type of experience with racism that I had in the United States. And so all of that spaciousness allowed me time to process like anything that was going on in my life, anything that was off, and to really like just have the time and the space to ask those questions. Like, what do I really want? What really matters to me? What are my values actually? What drives me? What feeds me? And through that spaciousness that moving abroad gave me, I was able to, come to the realization that, I did everything right. I got the degrees, I got the bag, I got the titles, I climbed the ladder, and I still felt like intense, just like out of alignment with being in corporate America. And so I took the call. The phone was ringing. The call was coming from inside of the house, and I answered the phone call to start building more toward the life that I envisioned for myself, which looked like business that's location independent, that's balance with my life where I'm working smart and I'm not working hard, where I'm working in a way that I can have the impact that I want to have. And so I'm very, very blessed that now I can say that my work and my life are completely in alignment with the impact that I want to have in the world. And that's what I help people do every day.
I don't even know where to ask my next question because you said so many things. So, number one, I love it. I love the fact that you did answer the call, that you are living a more aligned life. And it's always interesting to me. I mean, because I'm pretty much, you're like talking to me, right, about me. And so I always find that it's interesting that we chase this dream that we have. We go get all these things, right? We go get the degrees, we go get the job, we have the bag, we build the house, we do all the things, and we're still not where we want to be, right? And then we wake up one day and we're still in search of self, right? Talk to us about some of the challenges that you have experienced, or things that, and it may not have been a challenge, but things that you had to face head on making this transition to living in Lisbon.
Yeah, beautiful question. You know, moving abroad is an incredible experience. It's not for the faint of heart. There are challenges. I wouldn't say it's necessarily like, wow, this is so hard, but you know, moving anywhere in I'm flirting with 40, like I'm getting up there. And at this age, it's definitely more difficult to girl, it's called retinol. I am older than I look. But no, it's just more difficult to make friends and connections at this age. And so, you know, one of the challenges is like, you know, you really have to learn how to sit with yourself completely, sit with every emotion that can come up, because you're going to feel them, right? Because there will be times when you're more isolated than you'd like to be because you haven't made those connections yet. And there will be times where you have to put yourself out there, and maybe that's not so comfortable for everyone. And you have to put yourself out there and you have to go where the people are and figure out how to build community and how to build friendships and connections in an intentional way. It's not like we're in college or we're in, you know, school anymore where you're just kind of like, you know, we make friends because we see each other all the time. Like, no, you got to really put some elbow grease into it and be really intentional about making sure that all of your needs are being met, your relational needs, your wellness needs, your physical needs. And it's just always a little bit, it takes some inertia to get those needs met, right? Like, you know, I always tell the story of like when I first moved to Austria, it took me 6 months to find a broom. Because every place that I imagined you might buy a broom, Austrians did not think that broom should be sold there. Like in the U.S., you can buy a broom at the grocery store, right? You could buy like a broom in all these different places. You can find a broom in the Home Depot, like, and that's just not how it went. So that's like a small example that's like, it's so silly. It makes me laugh when I tell the story, but not even knowing like where to go or where to reach for something that you really need, it just takes that little bit of effort. So 3 years, I have a pretty good idea of where everything is, building the network and enjoying connection here. But those are some of the like main challenges I think that I faced and probably most people would face when they first move abroad.
So why Lisbon? There's a whole country. There's a whole world out here. 193 countries, and you chose Lisbon. Well, what was calling you from Lisbon?
You know, Lisbon is a complete vibe. I had visited Lisbon once when I was living in Germany. So it was about 10 years ago, the first time I visited Lisbon. And the city is completely different. But I just felt like, you know, you visit a place and you're like, oh, I could live here. Like, this is a vibe. Like, something's going on here and I want to, you know, explore a little bit. And so one thing that I often tell people is, you know, sometimes you move abroad or you travel, like if you're a traveler, maybe you go to like Thailand or Mexico, some places, you meet a lot of people that are also traveling. And a lot of times I would meet folks in my travels that gave me the sensation that they were running away from something. And most of the people that I meet in Lisbon give me the sensation that they're running toward something. So there's an energy here, of creation, collaboration, self-exploration, a very international, beautiful, historical place with a rich history, a ton of culture. The food is amazing. The wine is amazing. Portugal's where it's at.
I went to Portugal so this is November. This is like June, July. And I went to Porto. And so I felt that way. I felt like it was home. I'm assuming that Porto is going to be a little bit more laid back than Lisbon because it doesn't have all the things, but I felt at home. So I can only imagine like just saying, okay, I'm going to go to Lisbon, but I have to ask because, it's Lights of Vacay. How have you created a life of vacay for yourself, being able to be a coach, have a remote business, and then live in an amazing city like Lisbon?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the ways that I infuse this like vacay kind of just, vibe and ethos around me is I live in Lisbon, right? It's a big city. Portugal is a whole country. And I try to be really intentional about going out and exploring all of the different, like the nooks and the crannies of this beautiful country. Like get off path, right? Find a train, get off somewhere, see what's there and experience it. That's one of the ways. Another way I would say is like how I've designed my business is I have a 3-day weekend every weekend. Like we're having this conversation on a Friday, but that's because we're vibing. But I don't work on Fridays, right? Like I don't build work into my life on Fridays. I structure my week so that it is a 4-day work week. And that means I'm able to recharge and I'm able to create the space and the mindset of vacation and rest and rejuvenation and recuperation every single weekend. So between those two things, those are the main practices that I have of like making sure that there's some element in my heart and like my life on a weekly basis, even if that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm like taking a vacation and like traveling, leaving the country, that kind of thing.
Okay, which brings me to my next question. For those looking to enhance their work-life balance, I absolutely hate that phrase, work-life balance. I do too. Probably like, what? You don't do that. But what are some key mindsets or habits do you recommend starting for someone who is out of sorts? They're the you used to be, per se. They're living in the United States. They're trying to find their way. They're out here, creating a dream, but the dream is really not that. They're not living that. And so how do you suggest that you create work-life balance?
Yeah, I think that that resonated with me. Like that hit deep when you said, I hate that phrase. Because I hate that phrase too. Like we are 360 degrees of a human being. We are not half and half, work and life, right? Like our work, our love, our friendships, our health, our wealth, everything it's inseparable. It's all part of us. And so I think the place that I normally work with my clients on starting is like, who are you really though? Like, let's get super clear. Not a lot of people have the time or the bandwidth to check in with themselves and say like, okay, at this age and this stage, what are my values? What's that invisible operating system that's driving me toward, anything that's pushing me forward? When something feels off, right? I'm burnt out. Why? And so it's that curiosity coupled with this like deep awareness of self, because when we're curious, sometimes people don't need to leave their career. Maybe they have a really bad boss and they need to get away from them because this boss is transgressing, right? The boss is stepping over one of your values. Like maybe your value is family. And every time you sit down to dinner, your boss is texting, calling, emailing, pressuring to get some assignment, on some unrealistic timeline. that may not necessarily mean that you're in the wrong career. It may mean you're in the wrong role or with the wrong manager or with the wrong organization. And so with that clarity of self and the curiosity when something feels off, diving into the sensation of off, like, why am I off, can give you a lot more clarity on what should my next steps be. But I think it first begins, to be honest with you, with the mindset that you deserve to be well. That is less common than you think. And especially in the United States, it's like corporate culture, the rat race, pay your dues, the climb up, the like struggle and hustle culture. It's not compatible with the idea that we all deserve to be well. And so that mindset, starting from there, I deserve balance, I deserve fulfillment, I deserve wellness. Then when you start to see, okay, here I am not well, here I am not balanced. Why though? Curiosity, what's off here? What do I value? What do I need? And so when we have those three things in combination, you can start to build a roadmap to what a more aligned life would look like for you.
Absolutely. And I love it because in the US, and I'm in DC right now, and so I totally, I totally get it. I don't live here, but I used to live here, and the hustle and bustle of things are always interesting to me. So what are some tips that you would offer to someone for avoiding burnout and finding a healthier routine as they pursue their career ambitions?
Hey everybody, it's Cha Jones, and I am super excited because I have a new book. Yes, a new book. It's called Reclaiming Myself. It's a 12-week journal, a self-guided self-care journal specifically for moms who are ready to prioritize themselves, own their health, happiness, and personal growth. Each week focuses on different areas of self-care with journaling prompts, self-reflection exercises, and action items tailored to help you rediscover your passions, cultivate self-love, reduce stress, and carve out time specifically for you. Reclaim the woman that you are and be the best version of yourself with the Reclaiming Myself 12-week journal. It's available on Amazon or wherever you get books. Invest in yourself, mama. You deserve it.
Yeah, that is a great question. I think for me, some of my like go-to tips and even just practices in my life around building that balance is to get really clear on what is actually happening, right? Like I tell clients all the time, I'm not the coach that's going to tell you, everything is peachy keen. Like sometimes you're going to have a really bad boss. Like sometimes they're going to, feel some kind of way because you're a woman or feel some kind of way because you're Black or Latina or disabled or whatever. And we don't have control over that. So how can we create more wellness in our lives in systems that weren't built for us, systems that weren't built for our wellness, right? Like how do we transition from the hustle that other people set in front of us to the hustle for wellness, right? And, for me, it's all about really getting clear on like, what do I need to feel well? For me, I need time with people that I care about. I need time to wake up slowly in the morning. I need time for reflection. These are just things that I need in my body, in my life. And so for everyone, that's different. But, we're not going to win capitalism.
Right.
Most people don't, right? We're not going to win capitalism. And I think the mentality is shifting so much, especially since the pandemic, that, we're not going to, this isn't the boomer golden age anymore. We're not going to work at one job for 40 years and then get a pension and have a house and 2.5 kids and, a 2-car garage. Like we might not get that. And so if we're not going to get that, shifting that priority from loyalty for loyalty's sake to your career to I get one go on this planet, right? And it's short. So how do I do that with the most wellness? And that's a mindset. And when you train your mind to look for those opportunities, for ways that you can feel more connected, your brain will get to work and it'll start being like, okay, so we're out of balance here. Or the reason this feels yucky is this. So maybe instead of X, we can do Y. So that's one of my kind of go-to mentalities or mindsets around it. Is like, yeah, we're not even getting the thing that was promised to us when we were growing up. Like, go into debt and we promise the career that you get, the money you make will pay off your student loans. We're not seeing that in this world. And so if you're not giving me what you promised me, I don't need to give you what you think I need to promise you. And so I'm going to be prioritizing me and this wellness. And that's just a different mindset. I was kind of like a black sheep in corporate America because I have always had
Absolutely. I feel like we're twin souls right now. Like I've always been like, look, this is a whole lot of work. And the smoke and mirrors of you're gonna have all the money and do all the things, and then you get the money and you can't do the things. Or like I was interviewing someone yesterday, and if you work to 60, 65, whatever the retirement age is, you still don't have the life. Like, how many more years do you have after 65? And not, because I'm closer to 65 than not. So I'm not like saying you get to 65 and you just croak. But the realisms of that is that I just made up something, the realism. But
take it.
Yeah, the reality is that at 65, if you worked really, really hard and you saved and you did all the things to get to retirement, you're exhausted and you need to retire from being retired at that particular point. So you're working with a client and they're at that stage where they're like, look, I really want to live now. And I don't want to wait to 65. I want to have my cake and eat it too right now versus trying to put things off for those days, right? What are you going to say to them, and how are you going to coach them to get to a place where they can be aligned in their passion, their purpose, and their placement in this world?
The first thing that I would say is congratulations, honestly and truly, because it is a very scary thing to say that for most people, especially when you've been in a career or you've been working toward this idea of success for so long, and you finally come to the place out of desperation or inspiration where you're ready to say, okay, this is not hitting. I need something else in my life. I need to take a different path. Congratulations. And that can be incredibly scary and a lot of emotions can come up. So I'm just naming that in this space. That's the first place that we start. I think the second place that we start is, okay, we've had a lot of ideas coming at us about how we should live and what we're supposed to do and what we should do. But should is actually a shame, right? Like should is just a synonym for shame in my world and in my coaching practice. And so let's get away from what should you be doing and let's start the exploration in a non-judgmental, completely open exploration of what really drives you, right? You need to know what really drives you to know what your purpose is, or to feel a sense of purpose, or to feel a sense of alignment. And so few people, especially folks coming into the coaching space with me, have ever had, number one, the space and the permission to playfully start to examine what drives them, what they like, what they don't like. And number two, the space of non-judgment, right? Because you might tell your husband, you might tell your partner, you might tell a friend, oh, I want to do this thing. And they'd be like, that's interesting, right? There's a judgment there. And so coming into a space where you can share what's truly on your heart in terms of, yeah, these are my values. These are the things people tell me to value, but this is actually what really speaks to my heart and my soul. And these are the things that I'm doing when I feel most alive without judgment. That's really the first step. And when you can get to that space where you can start to have an early vision for what that life is like, two things are going to happen, right? There are two next steps. The next step that we want is that we just build a roadmap and we start doing the thing. But what actually normally happens is that as you get closer to what's true for you, every limiting belief that you have ever had kicking around the background of your brain is going to come front and center. You're going to get all the, girl, you can't do that. Girl, you don't deserve that. Girl, you're not smart enough. Girl, that's not possible.
Hey there, listeners. Are you ready to escape the hustle and bustle and design your own slice of paradise? If so, join us this October for the Design Your Soft Life retreat in the breathtaking beauty of Tulum, Mexico. Picture this: 5 nights and 6 days of pure relaxation, empowerment, and transformation. It's a luxurious getaway designed specifically for ambitious women like yourself who are craving more ease, freedom, and fulfillment in their lives. Get ready for the soft life. Embrace yourself in daily workshops, meditation sessions, and one-on-one coachings, all set against the backdrop of Tulum's stunning beaches and lush jungles. This isn't just a vacation. It's a journey of self-discovery and empowerment back to your authentic self. So, pack your bags and get ready to design the life you deserve. Spaces are limited, so reserve your spot on the waiting list now at bravosista.com. That is BRAVOSISTAH.com, and click on events and get on that waiting list. We'll hope to see you there.
And so there is some work that has to happen there, right? Some transformation that has to happen in mindset in order to prepare you for action. But through that, the other side is alignment, because we know what we value, what lights us on fire, what in ourselves will attempt to limit us. Ooh, now we've got the skills to overcome it. Now we can make sure that every decision that we make is aligning with the vision and the purpose. Everything that we do is pointing to our North Star, whatever that might be for us. So this is important work, and it can be, it can be challenging, but it's incredibly rewarding. And I get to walk side by side with my clients every day as I hold that non-judgmental, reflective space for them to be able to start to dream and to start that process. So yeah, that's normally how I would tell people to approach it.
Absolutely. I love that. So who would be your ideal client?
I primarily work with driven professional women like me and you, got the bag, got the title, did the degrees, did all the things, and they're just coming to the awareness that this is not life. I can't live this way anymore. I'm burnt out, or I'm unfulfilled. I'm not even respected at work sometimes. Or, there's just like, I chose this career for someone else, not for me. So that is normally who ends up on the other side of the Zoom with me. Yeah, those are my ideal folks that I love to work with.
Okay. And so how can people who are looking for a coach find you?
You can find me wherever the internet is connected to you. You can find me on my LinkedIn. My Instagram is at Flow Foundation, FLO Foundation, and my website is at flowfoundations.com.
Wonderful. So as we wrap up this interview, which I could talk to you about so many different things, I'm going to take it back to your expat experience and the quality of life that you have in Portugal. What right now are you doing that is just making your whole insides boil? Like, I'm really feeling amazing doing this or having this experience. What about your life is doing that for you right now in Portugal?
Yeah. One of the things that I'm really geeked about right now is just like diving into the exploration of community and connectedness. So Portugal and Lisbon, it's probably all of Portugal to be honest, but Lisbon specifically, there's a lot of, that I went to this thing a couple days ago. I'm going to describe it to you and I want to know how this land, like what you think about this. But it was an event and it was just like 12 people in someone's house with some snacks and a topic was introduced. And the whole purpose was just to bring 12 people together to have a conversation, 12 strangers to have a conversation about a topic. And the topic was like the future of relationships. Like, where are things going? Like, how are relationships evolving? How are romantic, platonic? What do we need to do to push, humanity forward? Just 12 chill-ass strangers having a super open-hearted discussion, big respect, no arguing, all these kinds of things. And like that's going on in living rooms all over Lisbon, like literally probably every single day of the week. And so it's really just like lighting this very warm, glowy fire in my heart to be able to connect with people in this like really authentic way, just sharing ideas, learning about their experiences and finding people that want to hear about me and my experiences and my point of view without judgment, without an agenda. So maybe that's everywhere if you move abroad. I think Lisbon's got the sauce, but that's something that's really lighting me on fire these days.
Because when you first said that, I was like, because when I thought, like, okay, so, as a child, I used to sit in my elementary school and I went to school maybe about half a mile away from the airport. And so I used to just watch airplanes take off. And literally, that's how I thought my life should be. Like, I thought the expat experience was about sitting around philosophizing about whatever. And when I moved to Korea way back in the day, that's the life I had. I was part of some group. We used to have these dinner parties and people sat around and we had topics and we got the topics before we showed up. But we had the conversations. And sometimes they got heated, not heated in a bad way, like arguing, but heated in, the depth of whatever someone's interest was about that topic. And so you could see the passion more so than the angst. And so that's exactly what I think expat is. Well, in my head,
that's a beautiful experience. It's a beautiful experience, especially after, like, I've lived in the U.S. and between 2025 and 2017, I was back in the U.S. and that kind of conversation, that kind of event, that kind of open-heartedness, that kind of mutual curiosity, exploration of self and others. Like, I just was not experiencing that in the U.S. in the last couple of years that I lived there. So it's really, really, really a beautiful experience. I don't know how it was for you. It sounds like it was also pretty impactful.
Yeah, I looked forward to those days. Now, that was, my life and career was totally different. I was way younger. And even though I was way younger, I was still like the old person in the room because a lot of the people were in their early 20s, just out of college. And I was at the mid 30s, and not necessarily. I was like at the brink of my mid 30s. And yeah, it was just, life was about getting up, doing exactly what you wanted to do. I had a university job, so I only worked 12 hours a week. And then I literally lived my life doing the things I wanted to do. Toastmasters, going to these parties, because my whole thought about expat life is probably something you see on like Eat, Pray, Love, and that's so sad because, well, not really, because it idealizes the experience. But,
Yeah.
I think of like a lot of diplomats have, you have these parties, you meet these people, everybody's from somewhere different. So everybody has different points of views that kind of commingle together. And it's just lovely. And so I'm glad that you're able to live that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, there's something special about it for sure. It's such a beautiful human experience. I'm glad you got to have that as well.
Yes, and I still have that in Mexico. It's different. I think every place has its different communities, and as the communities come, and then they grow organically for that particular place. So it sounds like what I have experienced about Europe is just what you described. And so, yeah, I'm loving it. Now, unfortunately, we have come to the end of this wonderful conversation. What would you like to leave the listeners, whether it's a tip, saying?
Yeah, what would I leave people with? I would leave people with, it is completely within your power to build the life of your dreams. Go confidently in the direction of your dreams. And on the other side is a very, very beautiful place. So I'll leave you with that.
Thank you. So I want to thank you again for taking the opportunity to interview with Life's a Vacay. We appreciate it here. Yeah, I'm hoping that people walk away with having, understand a little bit more about what you do, but more about how you're living and how it's important for them to be able to tap into whatever it is that's calling them to do in life and to show up for that. And so if you're interested in working with Santana, her information is going to be in the description, and please reach out to her. I think that you could gain so much from working with her. But more importantly, thank you for sharing your story, Santana.
Thank you for having me. I've so enjoyed our conversation.
Well, until next time, Life's a Vacay.
You have been listening to Life's a Vacay podcast. Thank you for tuning in today. Every day you have a choice, so choose yourself and never allow your circumstances to dictate the life you live. Whatever you don't like, you can change. Remember, nothing happens overnight, but know that when you set goals and take inspired action, whatever you desire can come in perfect timing. Never give up on creating the life you deserve. Don't anticipate your next vacation when you could be living a whole life on vacation. Until next time, I'm your host, Cha Jones. Please remember to like and share this podcast so that others can be inspired. Peace.